Greetings. This is Kinan and Itaki with Mohammad, Ayman, and Omar Hamadi. And in today's podcast, we will talk about the impact of COVID-19. We have a chance to do something extraordinary. As we head out of this pandemic, we can change the world. Create a world of love.
A world where we can be kind to each other, no matter what is our race, gender, or religion.
A world where we can do those at the food banks because that may be us if things were just slightly different. Let love and kindness be our roadmap.
Kinan, is COVID-19 pandemic Mother Nature's response to our actions?
Coronavirus may not, in retrospect, prove to be the tipping point that upends a human civilization as we know it, but it should serve as a warning that we will experience even more events in the future as the world heats up. As the coronavirus sweeps across the planet, living death and many theories are being expounded to explain its ferocity, but none can, so we can't really determine whether it's a Mother Nature or no.
Mohammad Ayman, a question asked by the many. What is COVID-19 that made shaking hands a fond memory of the past?
Yeah, Omar, according to WebMD.com, coronavirus is a virus that causes an infection in your nose or upper throat. Viruses from the corona family aren't dangerous, but COVID-19 is, because it's highly contagious. COVID-19 is a virus that causes what doctors call a respiratory infection.
Omar Hamadi, is COVID-19 willing to give us our freedom back? In other words, when will the coronavirus come to an end?
Well, my friend, it is too soon to tell how long the pandemic will last. It depends on many accumulating factors. First of all, vaccines shall be provided worldwide in order to boost the herd immunity, which allow us to recover from the impact of the pandemic faster and more efficiently. Other factors like exponential economic growth and sustainability is a must to reflourish the economy and get the world back on track. So I could say it is a far away from now.
Kinan, symptoms can vary widely. So can we know more about the common symptoms of COVID-19? But please be noted that this general overview is compiled for initial self-assessment only and may vary for each individual.
Well, according to the World Health Organization, COVID-19 affects different people in different ways. Most infected people will develop mild to moderate illness and recover without hospitalization. The symptoms are categorized into three categories. First of all, we have the most common symptoms like fever, dry cough, and tiredness. Then we have the less common symptoms like sore throat, diarrhea, headache, loss of taste or smell. And then, of course, we do have the serious symptoms in which we have to seek immediate treatment. This would be the shortness of breath, chest pain. And of course, these are the three categories that fall under the symptoms of COVID-19. So where will we be in 6 months, a year, 10 years from now? I lie awake at night wondering what will the future hold for my loved ones, my vulnerable friends and relatives. I wonder what will happen to my life.
Even though I'm luckier than many, there are a number of possible futures, all dependent on how governments and society respond to coronavirus and its economic aftermath.
Hopefully, we will use the crisis to produce something better, but we may slide into something worse. Now we will start talking about the impacts of COVID-19. We will start off by discussing its effect on education. Kinan, can you please tell us more about that?
That's a lovely question, since we are actually experiencing the effect ourselves. Well, as you may know, all educational institutes close until further notice, leaving everyone around the globe scrambling their mind about its effect on students. COVID-19 had an impact on educational rates. Since the beginning of the online year, there was a noticeable increase in dropping out due to many reasons, such as the lack of internet. According to 4U.com, there are roughly 3.7 billion of the population with no internet access. Additionally, there was a dramatic effect on the students' achievements. So it's actually expected by the Brookings.com article that students will retain with less than 50% of their learning gains in mathematics and other core subjects.
Well, Kinan, countries around the world have shut their borders, which inhibited students' mobility across the globe. How did this affect education institutes?
Great question, Omar. Besides the tremendous effect on a students' performance, the disruption to international students' mobility severely damaged institutes in terms of their funding model, For example, institutes that model their funding where international students pay higher tuition fees than domestic ones are experiencing major problems and they are now requesting emergency loans. Moreover, this disruption negatively affected students as they will not have the chance to gain such experiences that will assist in the development of cross-cultural awareness, adaptability and responsibility, open-mindedness and kind-heartedness, and also advanced learning. Moving on to talk about the impacts on mental health. Mohammad Ayman, what do you think was the impact of COVID-19 on mental health?
That is a great question, Kinan. We witnessed in 2020 the first quarantine the world had since the Spanish flu, and people weren't able to accept nor to normalize how life became, and how they weren't able to do their basic day-to-day habits anymore, which caused an enormous spike in mental health issues, especially depression and anxiety. The inability to interact with a human over a long period of time generated social anxiety. The inability to go outside the house caused serious levels of depression to many extroverts. And the uncertainty of the upcoming future caused many people to be anxious and overthink what will happen.
Well, Muhammad Ayman, what do you think about the research that showed an increase in the reported loneliness cases because of quarantine?
Before COVID-19, socializing was already a problem to many people, and the reported cases of feeling lonely was already growing year by year because of the lack of real human-to-human connection. However, with the pandemic, the cases grew insanely fast because most of the connection that people had already weren't there, and people didn't have anyone to talk to and lean to when life got hard. And as much as the internet offered us a real solution, there was nothing to replace a real face-to-face conversation that is based on a pure connection and not the Wi-Fi connection. I have a question to you, Omar, that was asked by many scientists, which is, what if the COVID-19 pandemic is nature's response to heal and cure itself from our actions?
Well, in hundreds of different forms, human activities caused environmental degradation over the decades. The global disturbance and disruption caused by COVID-19 pandemic has resulted in several positive impacts on the environment and its climate. So yes, we could say that COVID-19 is the planet's weapon against our acts.
Omar, I do have one question for you. Halting most of the flights all over the world caused a major drop in air pollution that humanity never experienced before. How did such drastic changes affect the environment?
Well, that's an amazing question, Kinan. COVID-19 resulted in numerous positive impacts. The lights of life, for example, auroras, have been spotted in phenomenal detail as COVID-19 brings most of the flights worldwide to a halt. Moreover, spread of wildlife in living areas became a noticeable event during the COVID-19 pandemic due to self-isolation and quarantine. In Italy, for example, the first time ever, most rivers are experiencing clear water in their canals, which allowed the marine diversity to thrive. While the pandemic had countless positive impacts on the environment, it did accompany some negative effects too. COVID-19 resulted Thailand captive elephants to face starvation due to lack of tourism. In addition, one of the main zoos in New York City had one of its captive animals tested positive for COVID-19, which is horrifying. Furthermore, the COVID-19 outbreak has also disrupted environmental diplomacy efforts, including causing the postponement of the 2020 United Nations Environment Conference, which led to the delay of the environment saving. I could safely say that the positive impact of COVID-19 on the environment outweighs all its negatives. Thank you very much everyone for listening and hope you have enjoyed this broadcast made by Omar Hamadi, Kinan, Itaki and Mohammad Ayman.